will be right back, but talk to you in a second. Sorry, I didn't turn the mic off. It's kind of loud. Wow, I got the mic turned up so much I can hear everything. I need to turn that thing down, but I thought the audio wasn't very loud. So I was testing in here. Listen to, oh my gosh. Great. Nice spam. So I was testing in here. Listen to, oh my gosh. Great. Nice spam. I guess I turned my volume down. It won't be as loud. This is fun. Yeah, we're being botted, Keith. Some pornographic spam. I just barely should be blocking everything by this person. Yeah, we're being botted, Keith. Some pornographic spam. Do. The only one that just spam channels that are live streaming, I guess. We're about to get going. What is it? About 6 minutes and 40 seconds left. I'm going to go ahead and turn my phone version of the live stream off because that's just loud. Aaron gets all skinny and gets some girls chasing. I love hearing you say that I'm skinny, Rhonda. You are awesome. You are awesome for saying that. Woohoo, spicy chat. Chris Whiting saw it. I guess everyone saw it. We're about to go live. 19 of us hanging out right now. Awesome. Welcome in. I really don't love that I got the chat like permanently up there in the window. Let's see. I can't get rid of it up there, can I? Let's see. You were talking, Keith, about the point of Pinnacle Peak. Cool, I'll have to check that out. Let's see. Let me do a check of this audio so I can hear myself. Oh, I gotta turn this on. Here we go. We're about 5 minutes out. For those of you who are... Okay, yep. Okay, those of you who are hanging out with me right now, is my audio loud enough? So if I'm looking over here and I say something at this volume, or if I read what the quotes are, everyone say that this audio is okay? Holy cow, I think I'm in the wrong chat. Hey, how's it going, Andy? We can run it off the page. Yeah, we're definitely running it off the page. Here we go. Let's move it off. Let's clean it up. It sounds like it's good on my... It's good in my sound right here. Let's go ahead and turn that off. I'm not going to need to double check that audio again. I'll just let you guys tell me if it turned out okay. And I'm going to share good audio from Keith. Awesome. Awesome. I'm about to get a few more of those. What I'm going to share here in a sec is going to be a reel that I put on Instagram and TikTok. I know, Chris. I know, boo. TikTok, indeed. It's loud enough. Awesome. Rhonda, Jerry says it's okay to me, and Andy says it's good. Chris says audio is good. So these videos are the reels I'm doing on TikTok, and I'm going to get my iPad connected to this computer while you guys are watching the next 4 minutes. Dan says it's good. Awesome. Hey, Dan. And what these are my 2-minute tips, and I have about 12 currently created, but let me pull them up right here. I can show you this large when I get this attached for the actual presentation of the show, but check this out. Including the 12 that I already have, here's another set. Now, you can't read this. It's not intended that you could read that. So just so you know that there are 30 videos. So there's 28, no, not 28, 18 more coming like these videos and like the ones before. Blake Fair's here. Hey, Blake. And so you're going to get a lot of cool tips. Like I'm excited about this one. The hyper foreground one, the Know the Cosmos, the monthly moon pattern, the 4 Milky Way seasons, 5 questions to ask before leaving a composition. That came to me from Paul. Let's see, Gary, and I said Paul. It is Paul, right? I'll remind myself exactly who I'm referring to. Is that the flying iPad? Yeah, it is the flying iPad. In fact, Rhonda, this is a different one than the one that went flying off of our car in Faroe Islands, but this is a recent upgrade. Last year I upgraded. So the one that fell off of the car is in the other room, and it still works brilliantly. It's not, but it did go flying. All right, let's go ahead and get this on a roll. We're about to start. Whew. We're 3 minutes out. Let's get going. Getting focus is one of the tougher things to do with your stars, and mostly it's just you fighting with your camera gear, especially when you're really wishing that your star was like a perfect little circle, but it's not. It's more like this shape. You've got this shape that you're trying to go, oh, okay, that's the best, tightest circle I can get. Your stars won't be circles. They will just be orbs of white that finally have a shape. And that tightest shape that you could possibly make it is what you end up with. How do you get there? How do you find this? Let me tell you. This is my Carson Lumi Loop. Right here above of this is a link, a quick text link, so you can go watch that focus video right now. But this is my #1 tip for getting great focus when I'm doing Milky Way photography. I take this because it has a plastic cup. It keeps it perfect distance from it. Flush right up against my LCD screen. And then I tweak it until I get the perfect focus. There's one more tip that I want to give you tonight, and it is one that if you have really good vision and you can see dots on the back of your LCD screen, this is going to be a quick tip to help you know, oh wow, okay, I can see the dots, I'm out of focus. Check out this clip of me in Escalante explaining it right there on scene. There's a way you can quickly see the difference on the back of your screen, even if you're not sure if you quite nailed the focus. Look at the difference. Can you notice the difference between them? This is just slightly out of focus, and yet I can tell immediately For time concerns, I'm going to jump right to the next video. I'm going to show that one real quick and we'll get going on Milky Way Wednesday. Making sure your lens is as open as possible is the easy mode best way to get a solid Milky Way shot. So when you're thinking, what is the best lens choice for Milky Way photography? Listen to old Aaron give you some tips. I say old Aaron because he has a huge beard. The first thing you're looking for is an aperture of f2.8 or greater. Check out this shot of my Rokinon. As you're looking at the aperture change from f22 all the way back down to f1.4, you can see how much awesome space there is in that light bucket of a lens to capture as much light in and get to the sensor without having to bring up my ISO too much to amplify the existing light. So when you're looking at your lenses, choose something that's f2.8 or greater. f1.4 is this Rokinon, and it is fantastic. Let's talk about the second thing, the focal length of your lens. That focal length choice is basically you're going to be as wide as possible from fisheye to about 50 millimeter. Those are your best ranges. What if I'm concerned about getting a zoom? Should I avoid zoom lenses? Heavens no. The fact that my Rokinon is better than my Tamron is not because it's just a prime versus a zoom question. While prime is fantastic, has high quality, and it will give you really great quality glass and clarity on the Milky Way, if this was an f3.5 and prime versus a zoom 2.8, the one I'd go with instantly is the f2.8. Lastly, you might look at this Rokinon and say, this doesn't have any autofocus. If no autofocus, this is going to be a frustrating lens to have in my bag. Well, for Milky Way photography, you are always going to be in manual focus. Look at your lenses. What do you have? Do you only have a 50 millimeter that's f1.8 or 1.4 or 1.2? Then go with the 50 millimeter. You will have to do a panorama, so stay tuned for a later video where I'm going to talk about panoramas, and you guys can get out there with a fantastic lens for Milky Way. You don't even have to go and buy it. Let's get started. Milky Way Wednesday is back. Wednesday night, and it's Milky Way Wednesday, and we're going to talk about some things tonight that are questions from viewers like you. I have them sent to me at milkywaywednesday@gmail.com, and I have 4 that I'm going to address here today, and I also have questions from those of you hanging out with me right here. And hopefully none of you are spamming us a bunch of links that you prefer. We got spammed earlier. But yes, welcome in. Oh, I'm excited to be back for Milky Way Wednesday. And the topics that we're going to have coming up are quite interesting. Repeats. There's definitely some repeats. For instance, like Dave Amalki from North Carolina and Rhonda. You've heard me say this 1,000 times. In fact, I think everyone else has also heard me say some of these things a few times. But we've got some good information as well as new questions that can come from you as well. How's it going, James Baker? Welcome in. And then it looks like also SM Wilkes is here. Hey, welcome in. Another Georgian. Yes. So what I want to try today is the Q&A button. Down here at the bottom, I have this option for engage with your audience. And if I click that, oh, where did it go? I don't see the pop-up. Okay, I got to start a new poll. I can actually do a Q&A. It's a little bit delayed after I click it, but I can do some options here. So I'm going to try to start a Q&A here later. Paul's here as well. Awesome. Hey, Gary and Paul. I was just talking about how in this, my new set of videos, I have a section here called 5 questions to ask before you leave a composition. And this is inspired by you, Paul, when you asked me, hey, so I'm here. What do I need to kind of check my list with of what should I do before I decide to change position or finish for the night? Things that you may not consider, like should I have gotten a stack? Should I have made sure I did this or make a foreground long exposure? Stuff like that. And so I have new videos, a bunch of these little 1-2 minute tip videos that I'm creating for TikTok and Instagram, but they'll be created for YouTube on the full resolution, full frame window. And then I'll also just shrink them down like you saw in the previous videos starting off this live stream, where you can get a little bit of an intro from me that's a little bit different, and then the 2-minute tip. So I'm going to be doing another 18 videos. I have 12, and I want to get up to these 30. And each one is going to also come with a tip sheet. So you see the checkbox next to these? those tip sheets are going to be existing. I got to create them. So I will make a tip sheet for every one of these 2-minute tips. So if you're thinking, oh man, I really wanted to have that tip with me on my phone, but I don't have access to the internet. What was it? What were those 5 things that he said to do? You'll have a quick tip sheet to reference. And hey, a guppy guy out in Boise. Man, I used to live in Twin Falls. I love Boise area. I mean, love it is kind of a stretch since I don't know it very well. I couldn't go there and tell you where to go for dinner or anything, but just I love Twin Falls. I love the southeast Idaho, southwest Idaho, or I guess it's more Boise high enough to call it central Idaho since it's so long all the way up to Coeur d'Alene. I would just call it the entire main area of Idaho, to be honest. Bob Borkowski, lunar eclipse coming this Tuesday, Wednesday. Yes, but for all locations, we should address that. Bob, let's use that as one of your questions for tonight. I'm going to check out the start Q&A. We'll be doing that here in a minute, but for now, let's get going with the questions and tackle question number 1 that came my way. Any Google Map locations you might be willing to share of Mono Lake? So this question right here from Pat is something that I have an area that I have been and I love, and I just keep repeating it. It's the South Tufas area. And so it's really hard to recommend anywhere else but this spot. But I have heard from people, and it's been kind of uncertain precisely. Oh, James is in Rexburg now, so he knows Idaho. Oh, no. I just hit my... Turn this off. I don't want you on. How did you get bumped? So I've heard from people that say they go on the north side and it works really well out here in the areas of the Mono Lake, and I have not experienced the same thing. Mono Lake. Oh, no. I'm in maps.com already. Boom, 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 boom. Mono Lake and South Tufa area. So I'm going to open this up, but I'm also going to open up my Google Earth Pro. I just decided that I want to do that, and I'll share my screen with you all. So then, dealing with the question that's down below, now I'm going to share with you some graphics to get the answer out there. Because what locations would I be willing to share? If you know California and you know it at all, you'll know that along this edge of Nevada and California, you have these Sierras. And the Sierras on the right side of them have a lot of opportunity for Milky Way photography, especially since in the beginning of the year, you're looking east and southeast. That's where it's low light pollution. The entire area is low light pollution. Let me just remind everybody of lightpollutionmap.info. And, I have paid for this to be ad-free and it has never worked. I think, did I pay for it on this account? I thought I had. Oh, well. Hey, look, this is where the 2 Daves and I were last week. In fact, we were just hanging out on the rocks of the rocks at Fort Fisher right here. Can I change this to a satellite? Of course, Aaron's distracted. Don't do it, Aaron. Don't do it. You only have so much time with everybody. That's a cool place. It works out pretty decently with some heavy light pollution underneath your Milky Way. Ban on a vertical Milky Way doesn't work totally. But here you can see where are the light polluted areas in California. They're on the west side of the Sierras. On the east side of the Sierras, it's more like me here in Utah, where we have islands of light that we avoid, and everything's great. In the west side of California, off the Sierras, you end up with those islands of dark that you try and find or go off the coast. So you cross over those Sierras, and now you're dealing with some great locations, namely right here, Mono Lake. So let's go over to Mono Lake on Google Earth Pro. I'm going to move Google Earth in a tad so I can still see the chat. And Andy was just there a few days ago. All right on. Cool, you're close. I mean, you're up there in Nevada, so you can come down through Tahoe area and go down to Mono Lake. Awesome. Blake Fair, early season South Tufa, east end facing east for a pano. Yes, I'm talking exactly about that spot for one of the recommended locations, so Blake knows it. So you're looking at Mono Lake, this shape. There are some other interesting subjects possibly up here. When it comes to a group and taking them there, hiking from where you park your car and coming off to the shoreline isn't as easy or as guaranteed. And it's like, well, we're not going to go explore that and try and find anything of interest. I've heard there are some interesting stuff, most likely this section, as it looks like it has some detailed subjects. And you can start to see some of these pictures popping up. For instance, let's see what this one looks like. Yeah, that's fantastic. If that's actually in that area, that is really, really cool. And I like this picture from, what's their name? I want to give them credit. I saw them a second ago. I'll find it after I come back out of this. But see this see-through section of mud? This is the built-up calcium. It was something in calcium. Someone else remind me what they actually are made from. Like a sodium bicarbonate or something. I can't remember exactly. But basically, these get built up in the water. The water has receded, and now they're visible. And there are some up on the north end. And then you look out over the lake. But my favorite spot is the area called the South Tufas. You can drive right up to it. Take a nice path right up here, park, and then you walk down a wood boardwalk to this point and then hang out in all of these, in all this glory. You can see Alan Wallace and I enjoying it. Sand Tufas. Favorite places on Earth. Oh, Chris Woodruff says this is his favorite place on Earth. Awesome. So we got both Chris's here tonight. Hey, welcome in, Chris Woodruff. And so looking at this spot, you can notice I've got north directly up. This is north. So looking east for a panorama, you've got this island chain, this island set right here. And this is of interest for a panorama. You know, I do this every Milky Way Wednesday, but I come up with an idea at the last second. Is the guild down right now, guys? Did I not find a way to pay it? I am paying it. What's going on? I was just on this yesterday. My internet is still on, right? The live stream is still working. Okay. So something's up with the guild right now. So I can't go and show off Blake's image. That's a bummer. Although I don't think it is the only way. Oh, this is even worse, Aaron, doing this. But I did it for a Monday Moment of Envy, so I think I can find it fast. Oh, no, it wasn't it. We did it for one of these. Ah, man, I wish I could see these faster because I don't know what February, was it March? Maybe in May? I'm just kind of looking through some folders to see pictures where I may have had Blake's image saved out. I believe I did save it at one point. And I show off his Milky Way I talked about, this is kind of one of the images that got me realizing that I can talk about the drop-in Milky Way because it did occur in this situation. Oh, bummer. This is not going to be something easily accessible per usual. And, of course, the guild's down right now, so I got to figure out what's up with that. The reality is that the website must not have its secure. It must be that I need to re-up the secure website for the domain. And so since it's not there, I'm not finding it this way. So what if I just do www.milkwayphotographers.guild.com? Actually, I shouldn't have to do that. Wow, what is going on? Interesting. I will figure it out. It may just be that they're down. Mighty Networks. Let's just see if Mighty Network has some warning. Just so I don't have to worry about it. Mighty Network. MightyNetworks.com. I went and it went through some crazy thing into Might Networks. Yeah, looks like everything's working there. MightyNetworks.com. No warnings. Oh, well, I will figure out what's going on with the guild here in a sec. But Blake's picture is of this area, and it's a great panorama where you can get these subjects really interesting. See this right there? That is what I'm talking about. So when it talks about the question down below, any Google Map locations you might be willing to share, absolutely, South Tufas. I won't share any of these other locations up north. If anyone has any that you can feel free to share. I don't know of any, so I won't be pointing them out. But some of those, like that one Fragile location, that looked a little, looks like something that's not going to be there very long. The way that anyone can walk up to that and possibly bring that down. Hey, Blake is hooking me up. Yes. Okay, sweet. So Blake just hooked me up with that image, and I'm just going to email it to myself and open it up. In fact, I'm going to email it to milkywaywednesday@gmail.com. So if you are considering sending out any questions in the future you want me to address, because I want to do a segment of this every episode. Let me go back to this one. So I'll bring in the question like that, and I'll answer the question every Milky Way Wednesday episode. I'll at least have one that I answer. If I get enough, and I don't have to pile them up, for a whole dedicated episode. So Blake's pick. I know I have this pick somewhere, Blake, but that's awesome of you to hook me up with it, so that I don't have to, delay any further. So I'm lucky that some of you have my phone number. So let's go over to Milky Way Wednesday and check that email. So while I'm doing this, I did want to show something from Mono Lake, and this is a good time for me to do that, so I'm going to open up something else. So looking at this clip comes from Pat, who has since been out to Mono Lake since this question, and he shares how his time-lapse went. That's not a digital cert error. Yeah, it's not that, Jeff. I think it's a domain forwarding issue. I think it's just not finding it with the forward. But you can enjoy this looped time lapse from Pat Passetti. Let's go ahead and get my email from myself. Oh, did it not fully send? No, it should have sent. Wow, is it taking that long to send? It's not coming in as a promotion. Maybe I'll send it again. Email Milky Way Wednesday. Yep, Wednesday. Oh, that's wrong. Wednesday at gmail.com. Maybe I just spelled it wrong. Blake image send. Milky Way Wednesday. Cool. I think now it's sending, and I'll be able to open it up. When you check out this area, you're not seeing all of the tufas. You're seeing them very small on the left. And you're seeing is the section. And this section was just during that time of year as he's coming through. He's getting skunked, but he did do a time lapse anyway. And this is one of my favorite reasons to do a time lapse. When you're getting skunked and you're not sure if you're going to find anything, and you get these small, teeny gaps where you start to see the core, and then the clouds keep building around it. Even though there was a section there where the clouds kept kissing and hugging that core and blocking it, you don't feel it the same way in a picture. You feel like there's so much more space. Ron says it was down an hour ago. Yeah, so, man, I need to figure out what I did with the guild. Sand tufa, super delicate. Oh, that was more than just the sodium bicarbonate ones or calcium ones, because that was a sand tufa, Chris is saying. Yeah, so delicate. I don't want to point those ones out because I don't want people to push them over. But it is a beautiful time lapse. Milky Way time lapses are some of my favorite. How are you taking this crazy long to actually send this over? Huh. Oh, well, I'm not getting my email very quickly from myself to myself. So we'll share Blake's picture at some point tonight. We've seen it before. Let's go on to question number 2. Is there a way to search for a certain star or constellation by entering the name in a search area and have the app show you where to point your camera? Ha ha ha. This is a great one, and one reason why I wanted to bring my iPad up, because we're going to go through this together. And this is a feature that is an interesting request, as we don't often look for a very specific constellation. We don't often say, okay, I want to point towards that, and where is it? Well, Orion is now coming up, is up every night, and it's going to be the big, beautiful object that's going to carry you through your astro through the winter, as well as other locations throughout the night sky. But Orion is fantastic. Orion to me is kind of like a deep sky core. It's a Milky Way core where it's just got so much going on and so many cool features that are going to be shown off here in a bit when I answer another question that comes back to this. But let's answer John's question through my iPad. And let's pull this up. So what would we do? iPad's right here. we would want to use an app that can point us to a specific star. Stellarium is one, Sky Guide is another, and I'm going to play with Sky Guide first, and then I'll show you where we could possibly make it easy with TPE, but this is the easiest option. Opening up something like Sky Guide is going to be your favorite option for finding something. So John, you click down here and you have the magnifying glass, and say you want to find any object. You can type in just about anything. I'm going to type in just simply Orion, the hunter. And you notice that when I was away from it, it had an arrow for a second. When I pulled away, it is taking me away from that. So I go back to my search, and I go for Orion, the hunter. And I hold up my device, and I turn it around, and it'll keep pointing an arrow down towards where Orion is. So imagine this was at a different time of the year, and Orion was up higher. I think once I tap on here, that arrow's going to go away, but what would happen if I change the date? Let's do a select the time being December, how about January 3rd? And you're out at 3 a.m. So now I say search for Orion. Oh, actually, I can see that it's below at this time. Let's go back forward when it's high in the sky. Look for Orion. Okay, cool, it did it. So I'm looking over here in the south, and in the southeast, the east, and it's pointing me towards where Orion is. So a specific question you can see down below, it says, is there any way for it to point your camera? Like, where should you point your camera to see it? If you were off base, just get your phone out, use this app, and say, hey, I want to find Andromeda Galaxy. I can't see it with my naked eye. Where should I point my camera? So then we go in here, we do our search, and do Andromeda Galaxy. Actually, I just got the Andromeda Chained Maiden, the constellation Andromeda. So now I got the galaxy. And then I look with my phone, and I go and point it towards the direction that it says. Oh, there it is. The Andromeda Galaxy. It's at this time of year, at this location on Earth, it's between northwest and north. Now I put my phone down and go, okay, get my camera, point it off in that direction, and take a picture. Something else that might be tough for us to find. For instance, let's go to right now. Oh, look at that beautiful Milky Way. It's above the horizon, but where's the moon? Oh, wow, there it is. There's the Milky Way, and there's the moon. Curse you, moon. Hanging out, blowing the view of our Milky Way. Let's go ahead and do a search. Let's do a search for something that you don't normally capture, something that you think is interesting, like, say, I want to capture the Horsehead Nebula. Horsehead Nebula, now it's pointing me down. Where is it? Oh, it's not up yet. It's not up in the sky yet. So let me go forward in time. And here we go. I got to pause before it fell down. And I'm looking at the Horsehead Nebula directly southeast from me right now. And that's where it would be. I look too far south. Oh, there's an arrow pointing to the left. Horsehead Nebula. And where is it? It's inside that beautiful, beautiful Orion. This is why I call it the core. It's just such a gorgeous, gorgeous feature. And looks like Mars is hanging out by Betelgeuse. That's cool. That's tonight, November 3rd. So once the moon is not bugging me, that Mars is going to be close to Betelgeuse. In fact, let's just jump forward in time a little bit. 1 month from now. So Mars will be up higher to the right and not as close to Betelgeuse. If I just start reversing time and seeing how things go, this is going to make me dizzy, right? Well, in Stellarium, I can actually go in and tell it to jump between two certain times. Let's go ahead and look at, get my time frame up, and date and time. And now I am going to set myself up for a later hour. Let's say 3 o'clock. And let's find Orion. Well, I just told you can look, so let's go ahead and look for it. Horsehead Nebula. All right, there's the Horsehead Nebula inside the Orion constellation. You can barely see it, but that's it. And if I keep zooming in, all right, there's a picture that's on the Stellarium mobile app on my iPad right now, and maybe not even the most recent update for it. And that's the version of it. Definitely much more gorgeous looking on SkyGuide. SkyGuide has the best graphics for seeing these things. It is just so much better looking on SkyGuide. But looking on Stellarium, you still get your answers. And one thing that's nice is I was talking about where Mars is based off of Betelgeuse. Can you see this dot right there? That is Mars. I'm going to keep that marked. And I'm going to go back to my date and time. And I'm going to make sure I jump back on, I can jump back on a year. So that same time of time, month, day, that's what it would look like last year, next year. Oh, you know what? It was already for 2023. So Mars isn't that far currently. Set time to now. And then go forward a few hours. Yeah, Mars is right above it. Interesting. Why does that change to 2023 though? It's interesting. I was just putting because I was not going by hours. I was going by months. The hours are below it. So in case you already saw this or didn't see it like I didn't, here's the time. It's in the 24-hour clock. And right here were the months and the days. And I was playing around with that 11 o'clock for, let me move it to 2 in the morning. But this is 7:24. So I needed to change the time here to get it more to where Orion and Mars and Betelgeuse are. All right, cool. Let's go forward in time where it's just higher in the sky and look at this part of the sky. So now I want to go by tomorrow night, next night. You can see how, I'm actually able to type. I just want to type. I just want to move it forward, and how at this exact same time next month, you can see the moon flying by, going back the other direction. At the exact same time, but this time of month, the Milky Way is a little bit further at that time of night, because this hour. So you can see how things will move throughout the sky, and you can see how with Betelgeuse and Mars, there's a big difference happening in where Mars and Betelgeuse are in the night sky. Betelgeuse never moves, but Mars is sure moving, which is where it gets its name, the Wanderer. You know, planets are called the Wanderers or Wanderers because planetos in Greek means wanderer. And so that's what we're looking at, seeing how Mars is going to make movements throughout the night sky, and when would be a good night to see, not a conjunction, but just two orange points of light in the sky at the same time. One a little bit more red and one really orange Betelgeuse, and that's why it interests me. So when you want to go ahead and find something that's in the night sky, you can use something like Stellarium on your phone or SkyGuide, which I fully recommend and love SkyGuide, especially since if I had searched for something like, well, where is the star Rigel? And I'm looking for it over here. And I'm thinking, Rigel must be right up there. Oh, wait, over here. There's Rigel. Oh, that's Rigel. Then I put my phone down, put my camera in that same direction, and capture the picture. Cool. I think I beat that horse dead. All right, next question. In fact, let me see if I'm missing any questions from all of you, because I haven't even gone back and considered it. Let me go bring us all up. So, talking to each other, and I sent you a thank you. Yes, Gary did send you a thank you email, Kathy, and I have it up right now. Maybe I won't read it for necessarily the entire world, but he starts out, Kathy, I wanted to thank you for the and the bringing the and, you know, it was a fun day, except for the private part wasn't critical. It's not like it's anything scandalous. It's just, you know, for the sake of the humility of Kathy, because she's a humble woman, I won't bring up all the things that she was generous with. And it's a cool picture. Don't show emails, but look at this. Oh, I can do it without showing anything. So this right here is us. There's Paul hanging out on that, enjoying the view. And then here was a lighthouse. Oh, I can't show you everything on there. So fantastic. We had a good time, Paul, Gary, and I. And Kathy joined us out there as well and drove her own vehicle, and that was a fun workshop. All right, going back to the chat. Looks like nothing else has come up that is critical right now, but let's try this. I want to try this feature of starting a Q&A. So I've clicked that now on YouTube, and it's going to start a Q&A with us. And let's see, testing. 1, 2, 3, and I hit enter. Oh, wait. Maybe I'll just do it this way. I can start the Q and I gotta name it something. Okay, Milky Way Wednesday Q&A. Ask me anything. Start the Q&A. I hit start Q&A, and let's see what happens. I think your chat will change. Ooh, interesting. I like that. There'll be different graphics too. So up here you can see how this popped up on your side. Most likely. Let's look at what our chat looks like. Oh, there we go. I like it. I can hide the chat. I wonder how this actually is going to work. So looking at this now, looking at the iPad screen, I can see, well, I need to move off of this box. So you got this Ask Me Anything, and I guess I can't write anything now, but you can type something so that you can hook me up with, would you track the sun or moon on an eclipse? First spot for Milky Way in 2023. Awesome. Okay, so these questions are popping through, and they're popping through on my end. Let's see what I get. I just see the new questions on a separate page. Can I do anything special? There's a test from Daryl. I want to make them pop up on my screen. Can I get them to pop up? Select the question. All right, nice. Okay, so let's go to, say, the entire window. Oh, there's no chat though. Let me pull the chat up. Bum, 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 bum. Sorry everyone, this is fun. I want to try this out with you guys today. Add the source, and then if I have that up there, interesting, it kind of, wait, now it's smaller, just spends a few minutes that big. I was hoping that would last longer. So would you, oh, if I click on it myself, it opens it up, and how does it look for everyone? You see it, and then I click on it. It doesn't really change any shape for you in the chat. Okay, interesting. Cool, so I selected that one, and if I had a moderator, that would show up. Okay, cool, interesting. I like it. So let's go into that question. Let's talk about it, because it'll answer one of the other questions that came up earlier about the lunar eclipse, because Bob pointed out that we have a lunar eclipse coming up. So let me get my iPad up again, and I will come out of this, please. All right, awesome. And it has come out of that, and I'm going to close extraneous windows. All right, sweet. iPad screen. So we're talking about the eclipse. Would you go and photograph it? Or the question is, would you track the sun or moon on an eclipse? Interesting point, because you have a moon that's moving faster than the sun, and the sun is staying in that position while the moon comes and overlaps it and then goes past it just a little bit faster. So I would track the moon. I would want to keep that moon going through there, but if I wanted to make sure the sun stayed in a certain position in my image, I would follow the sun. What's easiest is if you're in the middle of waiting for, say, a total solar eclipse and you've got a sun that's coming, I would think, well, I can follow the sun now and make sure I'm definitely doing it because the sun's visible. The moon won't be visible until it starts eating into the sun a little bit. So I can say that I'm tracking the moon, but I can verify it visually if I'm tracking the sun. So I would track the sun in a total solar eclipse so that I can make sure I'm pointing the right spot, but I would want to be going the same pace as the moon if what I want to see is all of the changes of a lunar eclipse. So I guess the answer really is, while the moon is faster than the sun in the sky from our relative position, I would track the moon on a lunar eclipse, obviously, and a sun for the solar eclipse since I can see it track with the solar eclipse as it's going by. And Bob pointed out that there was an eclipse coming up. And if you haven't noticed this already in your PhotoPills app, you can just go over here on the side, or if you have a phone, you'll be seeing on the top, and you just navigate until you see no eclipse loaded, and you just tap on that. Well, not the words, but you tap on the square next to it. That's a button. And then you can see today's date. Let's see. Let's go by current dates. Let's go to the top. Wow, this is funny. It was all the way back there to the 2020. So 2022, 11/8, moon total. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on that. November 8th, 2022, moon total. And now that it's been loaded, I can pull out and see where its full eclipse is happening. And so now that this eclipse is happening, it's different than a solar eclipse, I guess, huh? It doesn't have a path of totality as much. Because right here, I've got some extra lines, but those are just the astro twilight lines. No, I shouldn't say that, because this is the eclipse not visible here, and then eclipse at moonset, and then the eclipse is visible there. So it's not just the twilight period lines. So if I turn those off, this is the lunar eclipse line. You know, that was actually kind of hard to understand at first. I had too much going on. It looked just like the astro twilight periods because it's using those colors, but the lines are different and showing me that the eclipse will be visible after P4, and then the eclipse will happen at moonset and different timelines over here. So if I was where I am at, and let's just say I do it at Horseshoe Bend because that was the last place we were, I'm looking for the moon on the eclipse. If I turn back on this shape, that's just the Milky Way. Let's see. I want to see the actual eclipse. Where could I see that? They don't show it on here like they do the solar eclipse where they have a separate icon. Let me tap on the first second of it. When I tap on this square, it'll go to the very first part of the lunar eclipse and show me the exact time that it's happening. You can see this time down here is changing. So when I double tap that, I work backwards. Actually, no, in this case, it doesn't have a double tap. It just goes through it faster. So every time you tap this and touch it, it will go from beginning to end of that total lunar eclipse. And so knowing that there is one November 8th that's coming up from this position in Horseshoe Bend, this is what it would look like going in to the total point. And the total point happens at 3:17 a.m. minus 7 GMT, and that is the information there. If I had, I guess it's the meteor shower graphic I was picturing, or the view on Planet Pro. So Planet Pro has a different way of handling these. And so if I'm dealing with, say, a lunar eclipse, let's go ahead and do a search. So I'm going to change my location. I'm going to go into this. I don't want to rename it. I'm just going, well, let's do a new plan. I'm going to hit the new plan over here, this button. I'm going to get a new plan going, and let's reset everything. Cool. And now this plan is called Lunar. Coming off of that, rename it. Boom. Hit the search. Where do I want to be? Let's do Horseshoe Bend. Hopefully I'm not leaning away from the mic too much. Let me bring it down a little bit so I can talk over it. Horseshoe Bend. How about the one in Arkansas? No, not the one in Idaho either. Let's do Page, Coconino County. And that is the correct Horseshoe Bend. And for this, I'm going to set my subject, which is this. That is my subject. But where am I actually going to be myself? I'm going to stand over here. Let's just say like that spot right there. And with that, I hit the plus sign. I go over here to set camera location. And now I have a camera location. So when I choose my focal length, you can see how it's pointing towards my subject. Well, with the eclipse in mind, one of these buttons is going to be for eclipses. So I'm going to hit the top caret. Come on, I can never hit this caret. And I can look for things. Oh, look, special interest, eclipses. I'm going to hit eclipse. And now I'm going to try and pick which one. There's a partial solar coming October 14th, 2021. But what about another one? Let me try and find a lunar eclipse. I hit the word lunar. And then in here, it's showing me everything for a lunar eclipse. And that's 2001 to 2100. So that's giving me quite a bit. I want to do a total lunar eclipse. That sounds funny the way I'm saying it. Total lunar eclipse. It's like some weird accent on it. So 2022, November 8th, I found it. I'm going to tap on that. Oh, I can't see with my own fingers, but I saw with my mouse. All right, so now I have the eclipse, and you can see this graphic right here. My mouse is being held back from rotating. Okay, here we go. See this graphic right there, that semicircle? That's helping me as I'm going through this total... What's with that accent? The total lunar eclipse. This is showing me as I go through this time, and as I move through the timeline, it's going to show the sun and the moon. Well, wait a sec. This hasn't actually changed the time to November 8th. It's still November 2nd, 2022. I know I only need to go further in it. I have these times, so what if I actually tapped this? And press and hold to use it as the current time. And let's change it to current time. So boom, now it's different. Look at the sun and the moon. They're on opposite sides to create this eclipse where the Earth eclipses the moon and the light from the sun hitting it gets blocked by the Earth. See how they're on the opposites? And so now I'm talking about 102. And as I work my way through this eclipse, let's see, when is it actually at max? Let's hold down 359 to current time. So now it's 3:59. It's at max. And from Horseshoe Bend, it looks like, what time is it? 3:59 a.m. It's not astro twilight or anything. This is a good spot for me to see the lunar eclipse. And what's really neat about it is that it's actually directly west from my position, and I'll see the lunar eclipse happen over something as interesting as Horseshoe Bend. We talked about this last week. Horseshoe Bend has been a feature of us these 2 weeks in a row. Seems like I'm going to have to get down to Page and enjoy some time out there. Will I do it by November 8th? What day is it? November 2nd? 6 days from now? Let me check my calendar. Is it possible that I can do it? Tuesday, November 8th? Oh my gosh, it's possible. Come on, Bob. Don't make me go drive to Page right now. I was trying to save some money. All right, we'll see. That's pretty cool. So when you're thinking about looking for an eclipse, or the question was, can you watch it, or which one you track for? Tracking for this eclipse is something that I would definitely track the moon, because I can see it at night and know that I'm tracking with it before the actual eclipse begins. Then I can go at that pace that the moon is going and not lose any detail on the moon as it's going in and out of eclipse. When it's a solar eclipse and the moon comes in, there's no detail on the moon to worry about, so going at that same pace isn't as critical as seeing how the sun changes as the Pac-Man moon starts eating the sun and blocking it and then leaving out the other side and exiting. So I would say track the sun on a solar and moon on a lunar is pretty much a no-brainer, but when it comes to the speed during the total solar eclipse, you may have a reason to go for tracking the moon, but you'll have to know that you trust your gear, and without seeing the moon, or say the night before you get it working, don't move anything, don't change anything, just turn it back on to that tracking speed. I bet you can trust it. I haven't done it before, though. I haven't done it. I wouldn't know exactly. So this is a message that's held for review because he's sending it directly to the other Chris, and he says, depends on where you go. In the south, shooting north is okay, but Vegas... Okay, that's why I got blocked. That's funny. But Vegas is a light, from everywhere, just a mess. And so the conversation that's happening behind the Q&A is buried for me. In fact, no, I do see over there. Looks like underneath me I see it, but the chat right here. I think I'm going to end this Q&A because I don't really love this functionality yet. Let's see. End Q&A. If I do a Q&A and that's the only chat I want, then that's easy. This will remove all questions in the question list. Oh, okay, that's fine. Confirm. Okay, that way I can see all of chat. I probably could have changed it from chat to Q&A chat to all chat again, but it was just a little funky and weird delay and lag for me. So Horseshoe Bend is only a 7-hour drive, very doable. Well, you talking from where you are, Rhonda, or from where I am? Have you factored in Provo? Is that what you're saying? It's going to be close to the horizon for me, Kathy says. It's going to be, I have to be at work at 6 a.m., so I may get nothing this time. Yeah, last time I watched the lunar eclipse, I did a live stream of it. I can't do it from here. I'm looking that way, and it would be totally blocked by the building. Bum. LOL, I thought I accidentally deleted it. Oh, no worries, Chris. It's funny that it got held for review because you used some fruity language in there, which I didn't mind. My cursor, my mouse, I wonder if something is interfering with my mouse right now. It is all janky. All right, let's go to question number 3. Sigma 24 millimeter 1.4. Any experience with it? How bad is the coma? Is there really an advantage over an f2.8 lens? Okay. Oh no, I closed my window. All of my preparation. Oh, bummer. Oh, wait, no, I closed something else. I probably closed Google Earth. Yes. You can't see this, but I'm celebrating over here. Okay, cool. Whew. I'm about to change to this other screen that I prepared with a bunch of answers for this specific question where, I don't currently have this lens, Mark, and I don't know exactly how to do it, but if I were you and I needed to do something to find out that answer, she says from Santa Fe. I saw that. Rhonda. Okay, interesting. It is doable, right? And Horseshoe Bend could be a very interesting low lunar eclipse. That's pretty awesome. Okay, distraction. Let's go back over here. Oh, there's me. Hey, how's it going? So I would go into something like DP Review, and I would start typing in the Sigma lens, and I would put in all the parameters, 24 millimeter, and I would just stop there because you can see all the different options that are popping up right here. You're going to want to do f1.4, and now it starts limiting to what you're looking at. And based off the email, he mentioned Canon a second later, so I'm pretty sure he wants the Canon one, the version, not the Sony mount or the L mount, but the Canon mount or Nikon, Sigma, bayonet, whatever options were in there. So sorts of options that I was just kind of reading without paying attention to. But in here, it'll give you some answers. It'll give you some information about it, but you're not getting everything. You get reviews, you can get videos. It's quite nice. I'm going to click on the lens itself. And then in here, I get information about the lens, some answers about how the spherical handling is, any sort of peripheral brightness issues. Like it says, the new lens element design also delivers excellent peripheral brightness. So basically on the peripheral of the lens, it handles light really well without cutting it off too much. So it handles well when it comes to keeping light at the periphery of the lens itself, the element. So this is kind of good information, and it can be really great, especially when seeing some distortion. But I would do something as simple as, I've already used it up. Let's just use this one because I'm not doing the map anymore. I would just type in Sigma. In fact, you can see that I already have. And type in specifically coma performance. And then I start seeing other reviews. And this one right here, this is one that I liked from Lens Tip, but also I enjoyed this site where they had an actual picture that I can look at. And if I zoom in on this picture, I can see the performance in the corners and know, would you please stop readjusting for my zoom? You jerk. You can see how there is coma happening in the extreme corners, but there's a really great performance down here. On the Lens Tip site, they actually give me a quick close-up of every star. Let me zoom in even more. Why not? Because I can. Thanks for allowing it, website. You can see how I get towards the corners. So here's f1.4, f1.4, f1.4. And on the corner, yeah, you're getting it. On a crop sensor, you're not getting too bad a performance. And center on a full frame looks awesome, as you'd expect. F2, F2, F2. So when some people say, I can just stop down to F2 and fix the coma, sometimes it doesn't really have extreme change. But when it comes to, if you were to imagine that this, between the center and the edge, there are some stars that will perform way better than they were. For instance, my Rokin on 1.4, I'll stop down to F2. And it just helps me get focused too. I feel like it's a nice tight star. And that's a performance thing that you'll have to test yourself. So when someone asks a question like this one, and I haven't actually used the lens, I would just point them to the beautiful, it almost sounds too obvious, and I don't mean to be, what's the word I'm looking for? That's not a word I want to not say. There's no intention of condescending here, but it's just, there are really great answers with that same question being asked directly to Google, and you'll find things faster. Unless I specifically say I have the lens, then hit me up. And so this is really easy, good tools for you, and I loved how they perform. Now, there's a second part of this question. Let's look at that again. Is there really an advantage over an f2.8 lens? Well, you may have noticed that video in the beginning. Let me just show you the beginning of it real quick. And it's right Yeah. Making sure your lens is as open as possible is the easy mode best way to get a solid Milky Way shot. So when you're thinking, what is the best lens choice for Milky Way photography, listen to old Aaron give you some tips. I say old Aaron because he has a huge beard. The first thing you're looking for is an aperture of f2.8 or greater. Check out this shot of my Rokinon. As you're looking at the aperture change from f22 all the way back down to f1.4, you can see how much awesome space there is in that light bucket of a lens to capture as much light in and get to the sensor without. Okay, so that's the important part. As you saw that the lens being open and that. So is there really an advantage over an f2.8 lens? Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just in the star coma performance that we're talking about here. The light that you let in, where you've got a diameter of an aperture like this versus a diameter aperture that's like that, and you're competing, there is no competition which one will perform better for astrophotography. It's going to be this one. Any coma performance in the corners you can resolve in many ways, and my favorite is just to do a panorama. I mean, I love the East Milky Way arch panorama. Capturing a panorama is the best opportunity. I double checked my watch because I thought, oh no, I saw it was 7:40 something and I've been talking for a bit. Has it all of a sudden gone to the end of the episode? It has not quite yet. So the answer is yes. It's a big difference. It's worth it. If you have a little bit of coma, like you're seeing in this one right here, just a little bit of coma performance in the corners, or when you're dealing with, corners like this, don't hate on the lens yet. There are very few lenses that won't do that, and even if they don't do that in the beginning, they'll start to do that more. In fact, my Rokinon, I don't have it right here. My Rokinon has a performance issue after all the years of bouncing in my bag, going through Escalante. I've really lost the collimation, or what you would call a calibration on a lens like this, and so it's not there. It's not strong anymore when it comes to coma performance. It could be better. So I need to buy a new one. And so things like that will happen. I would pay more attention to the f-stop and get a bigger aperture and benefit from that than I would worry about the coma performance. Because when you get that big of an aperture, you can get a nice shot of a foreground during the nighttime and really be grateful that you have that giant light bucket that you have. All right, question 4. And this is the last question, by the way. So what is the real advantage of a tracker for Milky Way photography? Can you really see a difference over stacking? So this comes from Mark as well. And what I'm going to show you is an answer that answers 2 questions from tonight. One, what was the other question? The other question was, this one's asking tracking over stacking. And the other one was a performance of a lens? No. I'm trying to remember which one I'm referencing. Was it willing to share? No. Is there a way to search for certain stars? No. Any difference, advantage? I guess it was just these two talking about coma, advantage, larger lens. I guess that's all I was thinking of. I was really excited how this applied to 2 questions, but maybe it came from, that's what it was. It came from a question from Keith early on in the episode before it began, and oh my gosh, it's gone. I can't scroll back up there anymore. I still can't scroll up to this one too. Show me all chat. Come on, all messages are visible. Oh, it's Keith Kennedy's questions that he asked me in the beginning. I thought I could scroll this whenever I want. It actually goes back and stops after a certain point. Well, that's a bummer. I know that in the end I can see the beginning questions when I watch the replay, but for now, during the live stream, I can't actually see it. But basically, his question was talking about, is it worth getting a star tracker? It was also talking about, some other performance. Dang it. Crud. Oh, it was also a question about light pollution and dealing with a star tracker in the backyard when you're trying to see Orion and you think, can I track to actually see Orion better? That's what it was. Okay, cool. So we're going to answer this question while we answer the other question as well. And what I want to point out is that when you deal with a capture, you have an exposure of the night sky that is, let's ignore the foreground. Ignore the foreground at this point. Let's just talk about handling the night sky. When you deal with your exposure settings of an aperture size, your light bucket, your shutter length, or your ISO, which is basically just amplifying the light, the existing light that you have, getting the right histogram is something I've talked about in the past. I've talked about that perfect histogram, the one that I will attempt to bring up quickly and do it before I show you the screen so you don't get dizzy watching me go bring, 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 bring. And I am there. Okay, so looking at my iPad, you will see this. This histogram is the histogram that we try to get. And how do we get that histogram? There's many ways. You might find yourself in the middle of the process of bringing your shutter up to a point that you're okay with, and your histogram will obviously get more and more exposed towards the middle, or as they say, exposed to the right. You're going to get more and more data. And if you have all that data crunched off to the left in a bad histogram, you're so underexposed, you're going to introduce noise trying to show more of it, or you're not even going to have some detail and data that you wish you had. So what starts showing up? What starts happening with these? And so if I can borrow from this, let's just go into it and draw on it. So there's 3 things that I want to point out. You know, it's funny because I just thought like, hey, did you figure out what 3 things you want to point out? Are you sure it's 3? Let's pretend that it's 3 and go from there. So the first thing is you want to have your dust lanes show. Why? Why do you need your dust lanes of your Milky Way to show up so much? What is it that is lacking if you don't, say, have your dust lanes show up? Well, let me open up one of my pictures from early in my career. And this one, let's show this one. Check out the view of the Milky Way. Pretty fantastic. Love it. Turned out pretty awesome. This is not a stack. This is just 2 frames that I merged together in a pano, vertical pano, and connected with the foreground that I captured down here. Then you've got this exposure with completely different settings and also at a much more clean, dark sky location. When I try and place these side by side, let's see what I can do. Just make it tight. Okay, good. And then overlap. Good. Perfect. Okay, so you're looking at the Milky Way side by side. The detail up here and the detail up here. How much is being different? How much is lost? Not too much. This down here on the horizon with a little bit of light pollution, all you really see is the dark dust lane here and then the brightness of the core. Over here you see the dark dust lane, but you also see this. So look at that Lagoon Nebula and that Lagoon Nebula. Down here is where the dark horse begins, and it just kind of gets lost. All of this data right there is kind of a smudge over here. Now, it's not so much the fault of the exposure as it is the light pollution of the Goshen Eureka area. Not Eureka, but Goshen area. But you are seeing some loss of information that I don't have over here. Now, you take this image as a simple image of a single image, and you go, well, is it worth to track? Is tracking all it's cut out to be? Yeah, the answer is 100% yes. And I like to use my friend, and I have to do it www.utahastrophotography.com in order for it to show up. I love Eric's image here off of Factory Butte. I love it so much. But what I'm going to show you is that incredible, intense detail that we aren't getting in our images untracked. And let's go even closer. Oh, it's good. Do that again. I hate you. I hate you so much. All right, let's look at this area. This is the Lagoon Nebula, and look at this area here. Look at my best picture of the two here, compared side by side. Obviously, there's no competition. This is so much more detail. But there's an element here that's my next part. So you start to get dust lanes exposed. That's great for your image. What else is great for your image? it's great to see air glow. Sometimes it's not. There are some of you who have expressed personally to me that you actually prefer not too much air glow in your shot. It's weird. It's distracting. It's such a like carnival of colors that it's distracting to you. I get it. Fair enough. I personally love air glow. And then the third thing is star color. I did have a third thing. I was right. I predicted something that I guess is kind of obvious. People do things in threes all the time. But star color. And that is where we're going to have our biggest challenge when it comes to using the method of single image versus tracked. Stacked single images versus tracked. So let's talk about this with another color. I'm going to use yellow. Cool. So now I'm going to do something with stacked. Where am I going to benefit? Oh, that's going to be hideous. Let's not do that. Let's do it this way. I am going to write on this myself. When you're thinking about stacked versus tracked, you can really start to bring out some of your dust lanes with stacked. You can really actually bring in some color. Now, not air glow. Let's go ahead and add to this, maybe a different color. Add to this and call nebulosity. Can I get that to be spelled correctly? It's giant NEB and small ulosity. That's terribly written, but you get it. Nebulosity. Nebulosity shows up more, and airglow shows up more with a tracked shot, and you can with a stacked. One thing that you do not get with stacking is star color back, if you've lost it. What does that mean? There's a certain point where, looking at Eric's image here, look at the row of Fuki. Oh, come on, Aaron, I want something cooler than that. Do I have my zoom? Can I add it? I can probably really quickly. I'm going to add my zoom display and use it effectively, hopefully. Oh, I'm hitting the wrong button. And now I'm going to do this. All right. Okay. This is going to be my way of zooming in on this picture from Eric in a way that you guys can appreciate through the live stream. Let's get a little bit more of the dust lanes above here. Ooh, now I'm starting to take the time beyond the hour. It's 1 minute until we close. Closing time is soon. Let's go ahead and shut up soon. But you got to see this. You got to see the colors of the row of Fuki, right? You've got yellow stars. You have a bluish red star here with nebulosity around it, making the red show up. Those kind of details. Now, this is yellow, and this is actually the red star, and this is blue. In fact, if you get just a dedicated picture of the row of Fuki complex, I'm not spelling anything right with everything in the way. I didn't spell it right. Put the H in there. But let's just look at this picture so you can see it. You can see what colors I'm talking about. Those colors exist. My zoom is ruining that. See the colors that exist in here. Orange, blue, red, red. And this is a yellow star right there. The red's all nebulosities down here. Little orange all around that. And then the dust lane. All of that detail is from tracking. Long shutter tracking. That said, what is the color you can get back in stacking? You can actually do it with stacking, but you're asking yourself a lot, because if you want to track, let's say you just erased the whole thing. I really kind of liked how that color ended up being, but if you want to track for getting the air glow, you're just asking yourself to get a tracker working and track for, 1 to 2 minutes, and you start to see air glow much more strong. And the longer shutter you go, the more color that will appear. Now, what happens with the ISO, I didn't go into it, when you have your ISO and it goes up too high, your stars will become white. All of them. In fact, let me show you a picture of the row of Fuki on an image that is all white. This is an all-white panorama of completely blowing out the stars, where every star is nothing but a magenta, chroma aberration, or white. That's it. And that has happened because of the high ISO. I completely blew out my colors at the high ISO. But when you deal with the shutter, a long-length shutter of a tracked shot, you can see how in Eric's images, they persist. Orange, blue, there's all sorts of different reds in here. All sorts of colors show up. But like I said, there's ways to bring them back. And we're going to go to an old video that I mention all the time from Ian Norman, Lonely Speck. And it's this: photographing and processing the constellation Orion, image stacking, and the LRGB post-processing method. And what I want to show you here real quick is that as you're looking at all of his stacks, for instance, let's go back to his set of images. What you could accomplish in a 2-minute single image is now going to be well, I shouldn't even say 10. It should be 20 to 40 plus images. You need lots and lots and lots and lots of images. And then you can do the LRGB method. In this example, looks like a row of 7. And you got that times 4, so you've already got 28 images right here. And I don't think that's all the images that he worked with. So you can see how as he brings them all together and starts to do some luminance processing where he deals with the different channels one by one, and he starts bringing back some of the data. You start to see a little bit more of the pinks in there. You start to see a little more detail in there. He's handling them. He's changing their levels. He's doing all sorts of work that is, let's just say, in 1 hour. 1 hour of post-processing if you really know your stuff, and you can start to bring out all of that red color, all of that detail right there. And then we go to the final image where he's happy with it right here. And you see that, wow, look at that. We got the Betelgeuse yellow visible nice, the white and blue of Rigel very visible, some of the reds in the nebulosity. You got Barnard's Loop, you've got Rosette Nebula over here, and you have Horsehead, Witch's Head, and the Orion Nebula is all blown out. But it is visible, and the color detail can come back. So the question right here, can you really see a difference over stacking? Yes. But you also can try and bring back your airglow and nebulosity with stacking, and you can bring some more detail to your dust lanes with stacking. Your star color, not so easy, not so much. I need to test that. I need to test that to really see for sure if there is a way that I can actually stack and see star color if I do a low enough ISO where I don't blow it. So if I keep a low ISO and then capture, see how it goes. One thing that I don't have that you might have is an ISO invariant camera, and how does that perform? That's a whole nother question that I can't even begin to answer because I don't know how the star color is handled at that kind of exposure. I have a friend, Jeroen, that is out in the Netherlands, and he is looking to check, once there's actually a clear sky, he's looking to check to see, okay, can I actually get an issue with my stars on a long exposure star tracked shot? Is there a chance that if I have my ISO at a low ISO, but then I track for so many minutes, will I eventually start to blow out the stars anyway? Because the best way to bring color in your image is a longer shutter, and the ISO will kind of amplify the light and break some of that color. So if I have a long 5-minute versus a 10-minute exposure on a star tracked shot, will I lose the color anyway? Can I blow out the color of my stars even with the low ISO? Or is ISO the biggest culprit and easiest culprit and maybe even only culprit of blowing out those star colors? I don't know. He's going to check it out. He's going to find out for us. But I know that with a 3-minute, 4-minute, 2-minute exposure on a star tracker, you get so much more detail, so much more information on the dust lanes, so much more information on the airglow and the nebulosity, as well as keeping your star colors. You keep those star colors with that star tracker, and it makes it so much more worth getting a star tracker for that purpose and handling it so that you don't have to do a stack of 40, post-process it in a very, very creative, crazy way in Photoshop to actually see some of that color. Now, for Keith's question, let me answer real quick. He asked, okay, I got a light polluted backyard and I want to see Orion well with the star tracker. Will it help me more with that light pollution? My answer is no, but that is not with any experience, because the situation is that even though you get a longer exposure to try and mitigate being low on your ISO, you're still going to see all that light from the local area, and the more time you have exposing that light is only going to amplify that light, and it's probably still going to ruin your Orion shot to the point that you're talking about. If you can get a single image of Orion and make it visible, I would say try a tracker to try and get even more detail there, but you're going to do the extreme exposed to the right method, where you're going to have to go into Photoshop and bring back all of that light pollution side, and you have to do a stack of 40 or 50 like the LRGB method from Ian Norman to start to see it. When Ian captured his image there in that example I showed you, he wasn't in a light polluted area. If you want to do deep sky stuff with a light polluted area, your best bet really is narrowband, Keith, and want to do a narrowband exposure that takes hours and hours and hours, and you put it together in PixInsight, and it's a whole different process. If you want to get away from light pollution and use your regular camera, that's a light bucket camera that's dealing with pulling in more light and longer shutters, tracked or not tracked, then you can handle what you got. You can use what you have already and get a good picture. But if from a light polluted area, you're going to get blown out, I'm pretty confident with a star tracker, and it's not going to help that much. The best thing you can do in a light polluted area is go narrowband, and then at that point, capturing an entire Orion, which just depends on what lens you attach to your tracker that is using narrowband. So you have to have a CCD, that cooling camera. You need to have something like the ASI Air. I can't even begin to mention it all, but Blake and I, with the help of Sean Maloney, talked about a lot of gear for this narrowband kind of Milky Way photography and how you can start to pull things out from the light polluted areas. So that's a different question I can't answer all the way, but that is it. Okay, I scrolled so far. I went away from everything. Daryl Pruitt, Mr. Keith Kenny, does anyone have experience with the Skywatcher Star Adventure 2i? Would they recommend it? Oh, okay, cool. If anyone answered that, that'd be awesome. I see that in the chat that Daryl has found them and copied them, even though I couldn't see them. So I'm glad that you did that. Thanks a lot, Daryl. I appreciate that. So now it's in the chat. It's at the top. It's almost out of my view here, but I want that photograph of the area Romanowski. Tim Farmer says, I want to photograph that area Romanowski. What's the other part he's talking about? I want to catch up. What do you mean? What do you mean? The row of Fuki, is that what you're saying, Romanowski? Blake rocks for narrowband. Chris Woodruff, amen. I tip my hat to you, Blake. Yeah, that's right. I always wear a hat, and so whenever I take it off at a workshop, I'm like, hey, and by the way, I don't have hair. I don't have a lot of hair. I have my side hair. And so people in the workshop are always shocked, but I never take it off on YouTube because I like wearing my hat. And so when I do it like this, it's like, might as well enjoy seeing my greatest weakness. No, it's my greatest weakness, shortness or baldness. Maybe it's something else other than those two. Because if my greatest weakness were those two things, I'm living a very charmed life. So let my wife know that, JK, what Chris said. Something about Chris being right, I bet. I couldn't see the whole joke, but awesome. Okay. Oh, wait, Chris says, always, LOL. All right, so thank you so much for hanging out with me. I have made it to 8:10. I didn't go too far beyond our time limit. And if you have any other questions you want to hit me up with and you'd like me to answer them here, milkywaywednesday@gmail.com. I'm going to take one question. In fact, I got a question on here that is so good that I am going to tackle it with an entire Milky Way Wednesday. Not just the one with the post-processing of the panorama, but this message from Ron Steinke. Light pollution question, he says. How far away do you need to be from cities so light pollution won't affect the Milky Way photo? Well, the quick answer, Ron, is that your light pollution, the closer you are, it'll be higher in your frame. So imagine this frame that I have right here. You're really far away from a very, very bright city. It's going to be like this. I mean, for example, let me show you my image over here. Here. This one right there, that is a light polluted Salt Lake City. And look at how low it is in the horizon. So I was far enough away from this light bloom to have it be low enough on the horizon, so many degrees up, that it's nowhere near the core and therefore doesn't ruin my Milky Way. So talking about that light pollution in my frame right here. In fact, I'll just do my whole arm because I need to come up here. This is what I'll do. I'll come up here. A light polluted area that I'm only, like a mile from, will it be here? Or will a mile take up most of my frame? And if I go 3 miles from it, how much does that frame change? So what I'm wanting to do with the whole dedicated episode is I'm going to do some tests where I go to a border that's 8, a terrible high bright city, and drive away from it and get some measurements. Like, hey, if I capture my frame, it's this high, this high, this high, this high. And I had to go at least 10 miles per se to get to that point where it was mitigated below a typical degree marker for where the core is on my latitude line, that kind of question. So I'm going to have some good answers and a good test and a fun YouTube video for that. And I don't have to wait until next season to do it. I can do it here in the winter. So Ron, thank you for that question. I'm looking forward to answering it in a dedicated episode here. For instance, if I join Rhonda and go all the way out to Horseshoe Bend, which of course there was a message on here saying that Horseshoe Bend has closed the viewing area between sunset hours and sunrise hours. They went Cape Yaquina or Yaquina Lighthouse on us, the one over there in Oregon coast, where it's like, well, sunset has happened, so get the blank out of here. You're like, my tripod's right here. It's just, I want to see the afterglow. Look how beautiful it is. Like, no, get. And so you get your camera up, and you walk like 20 feet, and you put your tripod down, take another picture, and you look back, and they're like, no, keep going. They're pointing at you, telling you to leave up the stairs. If we move 20 more yards, put it down. Click. 20 more, click. We just want a cool picture, please. And so if they have done that in Horseshoe Bend, and I can't even go there during the night, that's depressing. I don't want to trespass to do it, but are they going to have to make me? Hopefully, whoever answered that can confirm whether or not I can get a permit or something and be there. What a bummer. So, yes, if I went out to a place like Horseshoe Bend and check Page's light pollution, I can do this whole test for the YouTube video. I'm looking forward to answering that question, Ron. So anyone else who has a question, hit me up here on Milky Way Wednesday. I would appreciate it. So hey, thanks everybody for hanging out with me. We went an extra 14 minutes, which isn't unusual if you've watched this more than once. So thanks for hanging out for Milky Way Wednesday. I'm Aaron King with Photog Adventures. I'll be back next Wednesday, which is November 9th. I'll be back November 9th for another Milky Way Wednesday, and I'll see you here. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks so much. Nice, very kind of you guys to say awesome as always, Chris. That's very kind. Daryl Pruitt says, also really depends on the city. Like Las Vegas is, really, really bright. It's far worse than Kansas City's city. I mean, that's completely correct. Let me actually put him up here so you guys can see that. So it's like, yes, it says a Bortle scale 8, but is the city massive, really bright? There's going to be a big difference depending on how far away from that light bloom you get. So it's not like I can figure out something that says Bortle scale 8, you need to be within this mile range to do it. It's not going to be that much of a science. It's going to be more of a recommendation and starter point. And realistically, most of your dark sky locations that you're going to go to is going to mitigate that light pollution for the most part. And so as long as you are looking away from the light pollution, or if you get miles away from it, you'll find it mitigated and going lower and lower on your horizon and not being so bad. All right. Thanks for that comment, Daryl. And thanks, everyone, for watching. I hope you guys all have a good night and enjoy your Wednesday and the moon ruining our Milky Way. Goodbye, Milky Way core. We will enjoy winter Milky Way shortly, and we'll have some fun. Enjoy Orion. Go buy some gear and spend a lot of money so that you can track a Milky Way, or track a Orion constellation and see it in great detail and have a lot of fun post-processing that and seeing really neat stuff. Oh, I can't wait. Have a good night, all. See you later. I will talk to you next week. All right. Bye.